humanity faced its biggest threat in the history of our existence. Human armies with developed weapons tech and armored suits face off with alien creatures coming in all forms. Yet the leading species of them all are dragons. Losses being suffered on both ends, the humans also had a different army, an army that consisted of soldiers with extraordinary abilities. They were called Psychers. As a collective, the humans barely managed to hold off their foes, causing the dragons to retreat, for now anyways. Present day, 15 years, from thought to paper, a prophet predicts an upcoming war for all humankind. World leaders collaborated and created ARC. ARC sought after children possessing psychic abilities to train their power and combat skills to help lead the charge in the future battle with dragons and their armies. The prophecy predicts the war to occur 3 years from now. 15 years back, one particular soldier donning heavy-duty armor and the courage to face the monstrosities before him, sees his opening and fires off a litany of rounds, piercing his foes before firing off a missile causing direct impact. He's winded and low on rounds before witnessing a massive flash in the sky that reveals a dragon beyond imagination. Power emanating from the dragon in the form of lightning as he rushes the soldier, he is only able to look up and witness his oncoming death before dropping his weapon in defeat. The dragon spews flames onto the soldier, consuming him in the fire and agonizing in pain. He wakes up. Displaying shell shock, 15 years later with this recurring dream, he realized the young gifted recruits are set to arrive today. Army choppers nearing their destination on ARC's massive compound, we see our main character, Han Li. Brought into an office within the chopper, a general has in front of Han Li something akin to a scouting report of his potential psychic abilities along with his criminal history. The general assures the 10-year-old Han Li that he is not looking to detain him even though the report states he is the leader of the Orphan war gang. "What do you know of ARC?" asks the general rhetorically. Han Li, knowing that ARC is the base where Psychers train for the upcoming war, then asks if he himself a Psycher. The general says ding ding ding, correct. And with your power, you are going to protect the human race. He follows up saying that Han Li will never have to worry about his next meal, or a place to sleep as they will accommodate everything for him. Han Li, unknowingly displaying his latent ability, states in anger that the rest of his quote-unquote family from the orphanage will be left behind. He bargains and states that he will join under the conditions that the orphans from his orphanage are to be taken care of in full. The general begrudgingly accepts Han Li's offer, following up that Han Li will have no choice than to commit to ARC, and no turning back. He accepts. The massive chopper landing in front of the compound, Han Li flashes back to the conversation with the general after accepting his offer, and the general stating that his scouting report has him ranked low in terms of abilities. Do your very best because the fate of your family of orphans depends on it. Han Li approaches the compound and his home for the foreseeable future, as he hears a scream coming from his side. He approaches the group of other gifted kids who are gathered around witnessing what appears to be a fight. In the middle of the gathering is a blonde preppy kid bullying a young recruit and demeaning him in front of everyone, even shaming him to the point where they should not be close enough to even breathe the same air. Other recruits take offense to the preppy bully and demand for him to shut up as it's every recruit's first day there. Not taking the disrespect lightly, the bully turns back to the other recruits with a glow emanating around his body and the ground shaking and states that he has been honing his powers far before today and that every other recruit there is inferior to him. Levitating the stones around him, the other recruits stare in disbelief as none of them have witnessed a display of psychic power. As the preppy bully stares down his target, continuing to shame him for even being in his presence, he launches the stone with his telekinetic powers. With his outreached hand, our main character Han Li catches the stone, saving the crying kid from taking serious damage. Han Li, surprised, tells the bully, all that flash and glow to launch a stone so slow? With anger, the bully demands to know who our main character is. Han Li, ready to rock, replies that I am here to humble your cocky ass. With the surrounding recruits shouting their support for Han Li, incoming from behind them all, lays a massive stomp. An angry voice screams out, "You simple idiots!" Everyone stopping in their tracks to look over and see the soldier we saw display shell shock from the previous war. An ice-cold stare from the soldier down upon Han Li and the bully. He demands for them to stand at attention and state their names. The bully identifies himself as Del Simon and Armain as Han Li. Watching from afar apparently, the soldier asks the bully Del, since it is obvious this is not the first time you've used your power before, what powers have you developed? Del responds stating all he knows so far is telekinesis, as Han Li stares confused thinking to himself, is there more than one type of power? Completely unimpressed, the soldier delivers a gut punch both literally and figuratively as spit flies out of Del's mouth. He berates Del for flexing such weak power. The soldier then looks over to Han Li and commends him for trying to save the crying kid from Del right before giving him a brutal body shot. The soldier screams out to Han Li stating that he is worse than Del for not even being able to display abilities that matches Del. With the two on the ground in pain, the soldier lets all recruits know that in 3 weeks' time, they will begin their training here at ARC and must develop the ability to use telekinesis or else they will be kicked out. The soldier introduces himself as John Red, and that he will be the one to train them from zero to hero to fight in the prophesized war. With everyone facing John Red, he instructs them to do laps around the compound and must not stop unless told to do so. Running with the sound of John Red yelling to everyone, "Keep running or else." Han Li is conditioned to being treated this way as an orphan. Others, however, aren't showing the same grit. John Red holds true to his promise and kicks out the weak. Han Li, assessing the situation, knows he's got a strong will but has doubts about his latent powers and having to learn telekinesis in 3 weeks. He even doubts that he has powers at all. Dragging his feet and exhausted is the kid that was being bullied and falls face down and worn out. John Red shaming him as the kid states he can no longer run. He feels a set of arms lift him off the ground as Han Li looks to John Red and clarifies that the kid said he can't run but never said he was quitting. Han Li gives the kid a much-needed look of support, and continues to march on as John Red has now seen Han Li twice help a person in need. Finally, as the sun sets, John Red blows his whistle signaling everyone to stop. Gassed out, everyone laying on the ground trying to catch their breath, John Red does a mental roll call and realizes only 40 of the 73 recruits were able to withstand the intense drill. He instructs everyone to get their rest as the real training will begin in the morning. He further states that the drill they just ran will be done every morning. Devastation is the common theme displayed on everyone's faces except for Han Li. A brand new day at ARC. 5 a.m., bright and early, and would you know it, the recruits are back running with Han Li and Del Simon leading the pack. 3 hours later, the recruits are sent to the mess hall to get their nourishment for their training. An hour later at 9 a.m., we find our recruits in class with John Red instructing. He tells the group that there is a part of their bodies that will create psychic energy, and that it is different for some folks whether it's their head, heart, or whatever else. No matter the case, it is important to visualize the source of energy. Han Li takes in the message and declares he'll visualize the source of psychic energy coming from his heart. 12:30 a.m., lunchtime. As Han Li walks through the chatter in the cafeteria, he finds Kuro, the same kid he has helped twice now from being bullied and kicked out of ARC. He sits beside him and greets him in a friendly manner, with Kuro being shy and happy that someone wants to eat with him. Little does Kuro know that he is Han Li's first real friend ever. Walking by is Del Simon, and as Han Li turns to look at him, they each give a look of knowing they have unfinished business. As Del walks away to his group of friends, Kuro states to Han Li that Del was in a program in England that trained gifted youngsters. Han Li mockingly replies it makes sense that he acts so bougie. As Han Li looks off, he mentions to Kuro that even though he hates to say it, Del is more talented considering he can already use telekinesis. He further states to Kuro that they both need to learn telekinesis in 3 weeks or they are out of ARC. Kuro stutters and replies to Han Li that he is actually able to perform telekinesis. With shock on his face, Han Li compliments Kuro being so gifted while thinking to himself, damn, I really am low-ranked. Later into the night, after completing more training in endurance, combat, and further lessons into developing their abilities, everyone is sent to the dorms after having dinner and showering up. Their days are very structured and at 10 p.m., lights out. Han Li, unable to sleep, takes in the day and realizes that the conditions he is now living in with food and a place to lay his head is definitely an upgrade from living on the streets, as an orphan. Yet, he tries to shake off the feeling of wanting to leave Ark before reminding himself what he agreed to do for the other orphans to be taken care of. 2 weeks later. One recruit, then another begins to develop telekinesis as Han Li exerts more and more anxiety as each day passes, even doubting he has any ability to have any powers. Han Li looks over to Kuro for advice, and he replies back that he does not know of a hack to learn the technique. Han Li goes to ask the least likely person in all of Ark. Del Simon? Del looks up and laughingly demands to know what the heck Han Li wants, as if he already knew. Han Li replies, "It's obvious why I am coming to you." Del in a cocky manner says, "Sure, I know. You still need to learn telekinesis. Now don't you think you should be bowing down to me by now?" Completely surprising Del, our main character Han Li drops to his knees and swallows his pride and asks politely for Del to teach him how to use telekinesis. Del takes a minute to think before he answers and grabs a pencil from his friend. Del states for our main character to get off his knees and will teach him how to perform the technique, but warns him that his method is his, so take it or leave it. Without another word said, Del lunges at Han Li with the sharp pencil and stabs our main character right in the heart, with Han Li barely able to utter, "What the F?" Fast forward to the final day of the 3 weeks given to the first-year recruits to complete their assignment of displaying telekinesis. Sergeant Red, with half his body out of the window and smoking on a cigar, thinks to himself how quickly the 3 weeks have come and gone. Barging into the room with excitement is OCTO, one of Ark's lab technicians. As the two greet each other, OCTO covers his nose and reminds Sergeant Red that Ark is a smoke-free compound. Annoyed by the OCTO, Sergeant Red demands to know the purpose of the visit. As Octo makes himself comfortable, he suggests it only makes sense to go down to the training grounds together for the recruits' final assignment. Then asks the sergeant, what does he think about the new batch of first years? Sergeant Red replies that they are weak and unfit, to Octo's surprise. Sergeant Red further states that there may be one, possibly two recruits that have some potential. He highlights Del Simon and points out that he is pretty advanced for a first year, considering he is kind of a tool. Octo recognized the name when he read his highly graded scouting report, and states he is excited to see what Del is capable of. Sergeant Red then points out Han Li and states, Han Li has the perfect mindset in terms of what you want for a soldier, displaying loyalty and courage. Sergeant Red flashes back to himself in the battle years back and thinks that Han Li's mindset means nothing if he does not have special abilities to fight in the prophesized war. Octo blurts out and asks randomly if Sergeant Red knows what the first-year recruits refer to him as. Showing no care, Sergeant Red guesses something similar to Captain Prick? Octo giggles in agreement. Sergeant Red, now down at the training compound, facing the recruits, states loudly, those who possess the talent of becoming a psyker will be the only ones to move on from this point and begin the real training as first years. He instructs everyone to display their external manifestation. For context, external manifestation is the act of gathering psychic energy and is the simplest skill a psyker possesses. Sergeant Red stares into the recruits with glowing red eyes and states if executed correctly, their eyes will glow. Sergeant Red further instructs the recruits to line up in front of Octo if they execute the manifestation. For those who can't, line up in front of the security, as they will return you back to your regular lives. As Han Li looks over to the security guards, he notices the renowned leader of the country's army, Major Kong. "Get a move on!" The sergeant screams to the recruits as they run over to line up in their respective lines. Han Li, standing with intent as his buddy Kuro looks back and worries that Han Li may not be able to execute the manifestation. Han closes his eyes and grips his heart as he begins to flash back when Del Simon lunged and stabbed him in the chest. Down on one knee and bleeding through his shirt, Han Li screams out, "What kind of lesson is this? Did you just try to kill me?" Del replies and states, "Just calm down. I did not go in deep but need you to feel enough pain so you will be able to concentrate your power. Where I stabbed you is now your psychic gateway. Dell reminds Han Li that the sergeant stated that the psychic power of a person is in a core part of their body, so try to gather the energy through it. As Han looks over at Dell trying to return the bloodied pencil back to his friend, he realizes that Dell knew that his heart was where his energy was stored. But how? As Han Li flashes back to the present and gripping his heart, he thinks to himself, ever since that day he was stabbed, the slight feel of power he's always felt has become stronger and stronger. But how to manifest it? Sergeant Red screams out to Han Li to hurry up as everyone has been sorted into their respective lines. As Kuro and the rest of the recruits who succeeded the manifestation look on to Han Li knows that he cannot return to his normal life. There's no way. Furious that Han Li is not immediately following orders to perform the manifestation, Sergeant Red marches toward our main character with intent as the rest of the recruits stare in fear. Sergeant Red with his fists balled up tells Han Li, no one is to disobey a direct order. He cocks his fist back ready to knock some sense into our main character. As Han Li's anxiety rises along with his desperation, he eyeballs a pen from Sergeant Red's breast pocket right before he takes a haymaker that sends him flying back into the ground. As our main character is on all fours with the sergeant approaching him, he clicks the pen and raises it straight into the air, leaving the sergeant at a loss for words as to how he managed to pluck the pen. Thinking Han Li was going to use the pen against him, the sergeant looks to see that our main character has stabbed himself in the heart in an attempt to trigger the manifestation. Completely shocking Kuro and even Dell, Sergeant Red lifts Han Li off his feet and screams out, "Are you freaking crazy? What the hell are you thinking?" Han Li drops the pen next to the tiny blood puddle coming from his chest and looks upon the sergeant in tears and defeat, unknowing that his eyes are glowing, which means he managed to manifest his psychic ability. The sergeant witnesses the manifestation and drops our main character to the ground. He walks away unimpressed that it took so much for Han Li to display the most basic of all techniques, yet the sergeant stops for a sec to turn back and say, "Congrats on your passing the test." Han Li with his face swollen, chest bloodied, but most importantly, eyes glowing, he sits in confusion and thinks, what the hell just happened? Either way, he's done it. Kuro, always ready to shed a good tear, inquires if our main character is alright. Han Li replies jokingly, nothing that spit shine couldn't handle. The lab tech Octo slaps on a watch on Han Li's wrist, indicating he is officially in ARC. As Octo is raving about all the cool features on the watch, a voice from the watch states, Han Li, officially registered. Then the watch projects a mini version of our main character. As Octo was about to continue highlighting the watch, Sergeant Red yells out for all the recruits to listen up. Everyone will be scheduled to a class depending on the performances you displayed throughout the past 3 weeks. The 4 classes are ranked A through D, and just because you are in Class C or D does not mean you can move up. The sergeant further states his congrats to the 25 recruits and mentions that he knows they all probably think of him as some evil prick, but tell them that they are incorrect. He states, I am not an evil prick, I'm the most evil of them all. Sergeant Red grabs the results for the recruits and begins to list them off. And would you know it, Del Simon is not just in Class A but the only recruit in the class. Han Li's friend Kuro managed to place in the B class with 3 other recruits. Sergeant Red orders for Class A and B to report to him. While Han Li discovers that he is in Class D, he thinks to himself that he will earn his way up before he knows it. Sergeant Red points Class C and D to their new weapons instructor, Wei Chin. As Instructor Chin towers over the recruit and absolutely massive in size, the recruits in Class C and D look up in obvious fear, till Instructor Chin opened his mouth and happily introduced himself in a kind manner. He states, let's grind through the tough road ahead together. Now the recruits don't know what to feel. Sergeant Red orders for the recruits to follow their respective instructors as they begin to march. Del and Kuro, now students of Sergeant Red, begin to make their way, and Del looks over to our main character and looks him off without saying a word. Kuro, on the other hand, teary-eyed as usual, is sad that his only friend is now going to be in a different class. Han Li assures that it is only a matter of time before he moves up and joins Kuro in the higher classes. As they go their separate ways, Instructor Chin tells his group to head over to the gym. A massive gymnasium on the compound of ARC, we find Instructor Lee in martial arts gear and sparring staff. He displays his expertise and technique with the staff as the speed of his swings crack the air. He lands in front of the recruits in a pose and all of them with their jaws to the ground in awe of the display. Instructor Chen states to the recruits, even though they all have psychic abilities, they will still need to learn how to fight with weapons when facing the dragons. He further states that no regular weapon can inflict damage upon the dragons. However, dragon skin and bones are the only things that can store psychic energy, which is the reason why the weapons we will use to fight the dragons are made from their skin and bones. Han Li asks the instructor, if we got the skin and bones from dragons in the last war, how did the Psychers defend themselves before? The pain in his face is obvious as Instructor Chen replies that in the past they didn't have the tech and was forced to go in toe-to-toe combat. It was a bloodbath for the Psychers. Instructor Chen further states that there were Psychers who had the ability to use their powers and fight from range, however, striking from longer distances won't allow for critical damage. That is why the weapons we have now must pierce the dragons, so the stored psychic energy within them can destroy the dragons from the inside. The Psychers who will wield the special weaponry are called Strikers. Han Li and the others look up in amazement as Instructor Chen informs the group that they will select a compatible weapon for training. Han Li takes no time in selecting his weapon and grabs a spear. Instructor Chen asks our main character, "Are you sure that is the weapon you'd like to train with?" Han Li replies, "I'm sure, seeing you wield the spear and display your techniques. I know this is what I want." The instructor looks at Han Li and thinks to himself that Han Li has shown a knack for quick decision-making ability with his selection of his weapon and how he managed to grab Sergeant Red's pen earlier to complete his task. A kid with that much grit must have had a tough life growing up, but his talent is obvious. Instructor Chen reaffirms Han Li's decision and vows to assist him in reaching his potential as Han Li stares at the staff with a look of purpose. 2 weeks later. Face to face and weapon drawn, Han Li and one of his classmates Jose stare each other down in obvious fatigue. Han Li throws a verbal jab stating to Jose, "Might as well toss in the towel seeing as you can't catch your breath." Jose, equally confident, replies back to our main character stating, "You're the one flapping your gums to get a breather. Bring it." And like that, Jose strikes with Han Li just barely blocking the blow but holding his ground. With a quick reverse, Han Li smacks his staff against Jose's, causing him to lose grip of his weapon. And before he can attempt to retrieve the staff, Han Li quickly draws his weapon at his classmate, causing him to quote-unquote wave the white flag. Han Li has now claimed victory against every recruit in Class D and now has defeated the class leader in Jose. As the two exchange respect for each other, Jose discloses that he will be moving up to Class C as of next week and that will leave the Class D leader spot vacant. He further states that Han Li should be the one to take over as our main character in shock replies, "That decision is not mine to make, Jose." Jose reassures Han Li and tells him that he has already spoken with the rest of the Class D recruits, and that they agree he should be next for the leader spot. Almost at a loss for words, Han Li looks upon everyone and humbly thanks them. Later that night, Han Li approaches Sergeant Red and asks if his becoming class leader will get him closer to moving up a class. Sergeant Red, showing fury, looks down upon our main character and tell him, "Hell no." The next morning, some of the older classmen working out are talking about how pissed off Sergeant Red is all the time and how he takes out his anger on them. They speak on his upcoming match today, and one of the classmen asks who is the sergeant fighting today. You guessed it, our first-year main character, Han Li. Staff in hand and in his battle stance, the sergeant stands across from our main character with his hand engulfed in flames from his psychic ability, and even uses it to light his cigar. As the older classmen cheer on for Han Li from the dorm windows, Sergeant Red with a smirk on thinks to himself that these fools are actually rooting for him to lose to this little first year. The sergeant flashes back to the night before as he was addressing all of Class D. He shames all of Class D for no one else looking to compete against Han for class leadership. He then screams out that Han Li doesn't even know telekinesis yet. Everyone with their mouths closed, the sergeant looks at Han Li and states, "There must be something to you if they all agree for you to lead the class." The sergeant quickly grabs a spear and breaks off the piece off the top, leaving behind a sharp tip. He then throws it towards our main character as he reaches out for the grab. The sergeant states, "Since no one else is challenging you for the leadership position, and you are top in Class D in weapons training, you're going to have to earn your stripes and fight me." Han Li, nervous as he tells the sergeant that the weapon is too sharp. With a disgusted look on his face, the sergeant replies to Han Li, "Doesn't matter how sharp the weapon is, your weak little self could never inflict damage to a person like me." Flashing back to the present, the sergeant tosses his jacket to the side with Han Li asking him, "Where exactly is your weapon?" The sergeant replies, "You need every bit of advantage you can get." Tossing his cigar to the side, he states rules of the match to our main character. "If I land on the ground, you win. And I win when you surrender." Han Li laughs and tells the sergeant, "If the only way I can lose is by surrendering, it looks like I already won the battle." As our main character displays some of the techniques he learned from Instructor Chin, the Sarge puts his dukes up and is ready to rock. A familiar face, Del, unknowing of what is taking place, can hear the other recruits gossiping about the fight and complimenting Han Li for taking on the Sarge. Del moves everyone off to the side to get a better look and sees his old foe Han Li. Our main character swings violently yet calculated, as the Sarg is bobbing and weaving. Leaping high up and coming in with an aerial attack, Sergeant Red quickly counters and catches Han Li mid-air before bringing him to closer to deliver a knee right into his sternum, and dropping our main character. As the Sarge is about to follow up with a stomp, Han Li quickly recognizes the incoming attack and manages to lunge himself backwards. Looking over at the Sarge, he asks, "Are you trying to kill me?" The Sarg replies, "You would think that, you little punk. I've slayed dragons and their monster soldiers, and just like them, I won't let you off the hook because you are inferior to me. My power doesn't match their power, so you need to face adversity to prepare." Han Li, catching his breath, states boldly, "Are you here to talk, Sarge, or are you here to fight?" Sergeant Red lunges and screams out, "So you have more in the tank, do you?" He grabs our main character and proceeds to launch him into the air and far off, crashing into the dirt. Shocked is the Sarge as he questions both how and when did Han Li manage to land a blow and cut his face. The recruits cheer on for our main character and fueling Han Li's next strike. The Sarge tells himself, "Maybe I'll hold back a bit more and see what Han Li can really do." Han Li attacking from all angles in a circular motion, the Sarg is impressed that Han Li is using his leverage and speed so well. The Sarge sees even more potential in this Class D student than he did before and almost admires our main character's spirit. Han Li steps back and springs off the ground, and spinning into the air, the Sarge decides he wants to feel Han Li's final attack head on. Crack! The spear breaks in two off the shoulder of Sergeant Red with the sharp end piercing his chest. "That's it!" The Sarge grabs by the neck and lifts him off the ground and demands for Han Li to surrender. He then activates his psychic power, and his hand turns to fire, causing our main character to scream in agony. Del and the recruits look on with nerves as the Sarge cranks his power up further and tells Han Li, "You will die if you don't give it up." Our main character, barely able to get a word out, manages to tell the Sarge, "Surrender? Hell no!" As the grip gets tighter, Instructor Chen rushes through the crowd and yells out to Sergeant Red to stop or the boy will die. Han Li's body going limp, the Sarge states that our main character did not surrender, nor was he able to take me to the ground. Instructor Chen, grabbing Han Li as he has passed out, lets out his frustration with the Sarge and claims his anger-fueled, unorthodox methods are not the way ARC was designed to be. With all the recruits booing at the fact that there is no decided winner, Sergeant Red turns to them and tells them all to shut the F up. He declares, "I will give him the victory since he chose to die by the sword and not surrender." He further states out loud for everyone to hear that a real soldier becomes great by hard training and not some soft approach. That boy lived a tough life as an Orpa by himself and showed the grit we are looking for. Once Han Li is healed, move him up 2 levels to Class B. A week has passed since Han Li and the Sarge went to battle, and our main character has been in the hospital wing healing up since. The doctor who has been looking over Hanli asks the Sarge if it is wise to have our main character move up 2 classes so quickly. Sergeant Red replies and states that he will make an exception for this case. The doctor is concerned that the top bosses at ARC will not like the decision for the advancement, considering they are putting the development of the recruit's psychic abilities at the top of the list. Sergeant Red states that our main character is actually a Class A talent, but his dormant psychic abilities are still holding him back. He continues and says that the art of hunting down and delivering the death blow to a dragon does not come from one's psychic abilities, but the ability to complete the mission under intense circumstances with will and determination. With that being said, and seeing how he was able to fight me, Hanli might be the best potential striker in the history of our existence. He actually might be the one to save humanity one day. The doctor showing her confusion, as she has never heard the Sarge compliment anyone in such a way. She states that she was sure Sergeant Red has a distaste for our main character. To her surprise, the Sarge replies, "He's actually my favorite, that is why I will continue being tough on him to get the most out." As the doctor begins to walk back in the direction of our main character's room, she sees Instructor Chen moving sneakily towards Han Li's door. She asks what is he trying to sneak in this time. Instructor Chen opens the basket, revealing some fruits and drinks. The doctor asks, why is he then just waiting outside of the door, and he replies that he can see through the room window that Han Li is concentrating on getting better with telekinesis. They witness him with his eyes glowing and attempting to use his psychic ability to raise the marble off the table. As they can feel the energy he is releasing through the door, he's done it. The two, unable to hide their excitement for our main character, jump up and high-five each other before quickly playing it off. As the instructor walks into the room, he greets our main character and asks how the recovery is going. Han Li, excited to see his favorite instructor, tells him all is well. As the two enjoy some fresh fruit, the instructor lets our main character know that he is really amazed at what he has accomplished so far and him starting his first day as a Class B recruit tomorrow. With a mouth full of food, Han Li is appreciative of the compliment, and states that he has been working really hard on his telekinesis for his first day in his new class. The instructor lets our main character know that he is taking the right approach, considering, in order to be a great psyker, telekinesis is necessary because of how many of the fights are mid-air. Losing your weapon and not being able to use telekinesis to retrieve it could be costly. Right as he finished his statement, an idea pops in Instructor Chen's head and he rushes out to the nurse's desk, and to their surprise, he asks if he can take our main character out of the hospital for a bit. She allows for it, and the instructor leads the way straight to the gymnasium. Confused as to why he has been brought there, the instructor clarifies that since our main character's psychic abilities are low-graded, that he may never develop a specific specialty power such as teleportation or ignition. Han Li, shocked to hear this, asks, how am I supposed to be a psyker if I don't have a special ability? The instructor assures that there is a route for success for our main character, as he is displaying a massive surge of psychic energy around him. He states that it is in the form of mastering telekinesis to its highest potential. Make telekinesis your special ability, or as we call it, advanced psychokinesis. With consistent and vigorous training, the ability will continue to develop and mastering mid-air battles will become a strength. The instructor also tells Han Li to not be so concerned with your D- psychic grade, because the fact of the matter is that your generation is actually more gifted than ours could ever be. Fight on and train hard. Han Li with excitement complies with the instructor's statement. The next morning brings our main character to the front door of Class B. As Han Li braces himself for his first day, he opens the door to take his first step in and runs face first into the chest of one of his new classmates. Much taller than our main character, he did not even notice Han was standing in front of him. The classmate greets Han Li by name, and our main character, surprised, asked, "How do you know my name?" The classmate laughs, saying that all the piskers in training already knows who he is. The classmate properly introduces himself as Dimitri, the leader of Class B. Dimitri points out to Han that he's made perfect timing as the class is currently sparring using weapons. The sounds of swords and spear clashing, Han Li walks into the gymnasium feeling a bit overwhelmed until he eyes down the weapon rack. His love for weapons training is apparent as he thinks to himself, the only time he does not feel the burden and stress of performing here at Arc is when he gets to put in weapons training. Grabbing his familiar weapon, it's just about that time to release some stress. And he lunges straight forward with Dimitri keeping a close eye. Bing bang boom! Everyone around our main character on the ground and in pain from the molly-whopping, and Kuro, showing his usual fear and tears combo, asks Han Li nervously if he enjoys getting the better of people by going after their deficiencies. Considering most of Class A and B's specialty falls more under the psychic abilities and not so much the weapons expertise, Han answers Kuro and tells him that they are lucky they don't offer sparring in the form of psychic abilities, or else he would advance quicker with how tenacious he is in competition. As Dimitri sees and listens to everything that just occurred, he displays a disturbing look on his face with a smile because Han Li is just as advertised and Dimitri would love nothing more than to go toe-to-toe against our main character in a real battle. Eyes closed and the sounds of heavy breathing. Then looking down at his weapon on all fours as a footstep approaches. One of the Class B students looked down upon the teary-eyed Kuro, demanding him to get up and defend himself. Another Class B student jumps in and tells the other student that he is next in line to beat on Kuro. Then another student declares he will be next after. All Kuro can think of is when our main character Han Li saved him before and is praying for him to do the same now against the 3 students. Before the 3 students can get another word out, smack! Crash! Thud! Han Li comes to Kuro's aid and lays a beating on the 3 and sends them flying as Kuro looks on in relief that his only friend has come to his aid once again. Han stands tall before Kuro. Before Kuro can thank his friend, our main character screams out to Dimitri, who is the Class B leader. What the hell kind of a sparring session is this? Dimitri assures Han Li that this is how things are done here, and he states the same thing Sergeant Red told Han prior. Our foes will not take it easy on us, this is why we train the way we do. You are actually the only one here who doesn't quite get that yet, do you? Coddling your friend will only make him weaker, Han Li. Still angry our main character is, he has no real rebuttal as the statement Dimitri just made actually makes sense. However, Dimitri does change his tune a bit, and mentions to the 3 students that jumping on a weaker foe is pretty weak on their parts as well. With a glow in his eyes, Dimitri calls out to Han Li and states they should put on a proper display of a sparring match right here, right now. Han Li, gripping his spear, responds, "You really want to go? Then let's do it." Wasting no time, Dimitri attacks ferociously as Han Li is able to defend with both their weapons making contact. Han Li thought to himself, if he swings that hard again, there is a chance he can break his spear against mine. Dodging another attack and leaving Dimitri a bit off balance, they both lunge with Han Li getting off first and barely missing his target as Dimitri lowers his head and makes full contact into our main character's skull. Han Li, sent flying back into the ground from the impact, gets up to his knees with his hand on his head in pain and screams out, this was supposed to be a weapons training session. With a sinister look in his eyes, Dimitri warns our main character that he was a Sambo champion before he came here to Arc and will use all weapons available including his head. He further states that his elite grappling skills will be the end of Han Li if he ends up grabbing a hold of him. Han Li, struggling to get up for a second, mocks Dimitri and asks, "Are you going to headbutt dragons to their defeat? Is that your stupid plan?" The statement brings a chuckle to Dimitri, and says his head is strong enough to do some damage to a dragon in a joking manner. The crowd of Class B students roar in support of their class leader, and refer to him by his nickname, the Siberian Baby Tiger. Dimitri demands for the rest of the students to leave out the baby part off his nickname as it does not make him sound tough. Han Li stares at the interaction between the Class B leader and the rest of the students, and realizes that they are a solid team, and really was trying to help Kuro man up even though it was in a brutal fashion. As Han Li turns to look at his friend Kuro for a split second, Dimitri screams out to Han Li, "Keep your eyes in the fight." He rushes our main character and swings his weapon as it clashes against Han Li's spear. Dimitri, back in his stance, declares that this match is taking too long and he is going to end it quickly. Dimitri leaps into the air and misses with his strike as Han Li also jumps into the air and puts everything into this strike. Dimitri can see the imminent danger from the oncoming blow, and raises his weapon to defend. With everyone paying close attention, they witness both fighters' weapons break against each other. With his eyes not facing his opponent, our main character does not see Dimitri lunging from behind till the last second. Dimitri lowers his shoulder into the chest of Hanli while simultaneously grabbing his arm and taking him to the ground with impact. The students chant Dimitri's name as he has our main character in an arm bar. Dimitri screams, "Surrender, Hanli! Or else I am taking your arm with me." Hanli with so much pride manages to tell Dimitri, "Go on then, give it your best shot. I don't even think you have what it takes to break my arm." Then crack! The rest of the students are shocked to see what just happened. Hanli in obvious pain from just having his arm broken, Dimitri looks down at our main character and tells him, "All you had to do was surrender to me, and your arm would still be intact right now. That raging you could be the death of you in the future." Kuro trembles in fear as he looks on to his best friend in obvious pain. As Dimitri begins to walk away, he gives his respect to our main character considering that he has not cried, or even made a sound since having his arm snapped. Dimitri tells some of the students to take Hanli over to the medical wing, and not realizing our main character is back up to his feet, and smacks the back of Dimitri's head with the stick. Standing above Dimitri, he declares that he is not some punk kid like everyone else here and that a broken arm will never stop him. "Get up, Dimitri, and let's finish what we started!" screams out Hanli. But he then realizes he has knocked out Dimitri unconscious. The sound of a heart monitor beeping, Dimitri opens his eyes for the first time since he was knocked out and springs up asking himself, "Where the hell am I?" Looking over to his left is our main character in a hospital bed beside him as he watches a video transmission from the general that brought him in. The general updates Hanli on the well-being of the orphans he promised to take care of and tells him how great they are doing. Hanli's so happy to see the kids from the orphanage living a better life thanks to the deal he made to join ARC as a psyker. Hanli just realizing that Dimitri is finally awake, he asks him if he could swipe his watch to see the next picture. Still gathering his thoughts, Dimitri begins to help Hanli then bursts out stating, "I shouldn't be helping you at all since you knocked me out." Hanli states back, "You broke my arm so that's the least you can do. And for future reference, don't ever turn your back in battle, that's why I popped you. That's how we do it here at ARC, right?" At a loss for words, Dimitri had to suck it up because our main character made a solid point. As a bit of time passed, Hanli tells Dimitri that their battle was not personal and Dimitri agreed from his side as well. But chuckles to himself and says once we are healed up, we need a rematch to see who the real winner is. Our main character still feels bad for Kuro. He now understands that instead of just battling for him, he should have teamed up with Kuro so he can grow as a soldier. Dimitri sympathizes with Hanli but lets him know that Kuro has to toughen up quickly because by the time he is a year 2, he may not live. "What the hell are you talking about?" Hanli replies. Dimitri tells our main character to follow him. And as they walk out of their room, Hanli asks where are they heading to. Dimitri replies, "It's better you see what I am talking about." They enter the intensive care unit when the two see one of ARC's students in critical condition being wheeled in a stretcher with an oxygen mask on. Hanli nervously asks what happened to him. Dimitri replies that the level of training the second years go through is so vigorous that some don't make it. This is why Kuro and the other classmen need tough training. Our main character confused as to why the upperclassman who was on the stretcher looks considerably older even though he is in the same age range. He tells Dimitri that the guy looks like a fully grown man. Dimitri, realizing that our main character does not know much of what goes on in ARC, explains to him, once students begin their second year, ARC begins to administer drug injections. The drug allows you to grow at a rapid rate into your adult body. Absolutely shocked as to what he is hearing, Dimitri justifies the drug by reminding our main character that the war is only 3 years away. "Did you think you were going to fight as a child?" Hanli takes a second to absorb the information and states that he is okay with that. Dimitri, surprised with that statement, asks Hanli why. Hanli explains that before he came to ARC, he lived on the streets and had to make ends meet by any means necessary, whether that was stealing from a store or snatching a purse away. The only problem with that was there were grown-ups engaging in the same activity, and would end up robbing him. Being so much bigger than Han Li, they would overpower him and beat him if he resisted. Han Li tells Dimitri he has always wanted to grow up quickly because his life as a child was horrible. The only thing he cares about is becoming stronger. Who cares about happiness? Dimitri looks at Han Li with amazement, and reassures him that he has the right mindset to be a soldier in this upcoming war. Han Li has seen enough of the emergency room. First day back in training for the two, Sergeant Red informs the group that today will be a parachute training day, and not to forget the lessons learned over the past couple of weeks. Dimitri looks over at our main character, and jokingly tells him that being in a hospital bed doesn't seem any more. As Han Li chuckles, he realizes that the second bag that they were given is loaded with food. He warns Dimitri that this may not be a typical training day. Dimitri with disgust in his voice as he points out to our main character that there are already idiots who are munching on the food prior to knowing what it is for. And out of the corner of his eye, Dimitri looks over and taps Han Li to point out Del Simon. With a manic look on his face, he asks our main character, "That's the psyker from England, isn't it? Can't wait to take him on, one-on-one." Del happens to look over and sees Dimitri staring at him with a creepy look and wonders, what the hell is up him? Meanwhile, Han Li looks over at his sad-looking buddy Kuro and refocuses at the task that stands before them. "Get a freaking move on, you bastards!" screams out Sergeant Red. Everyone suited up complies to the direct order and begins boarding the chopper. As the choppers with the recruits begin to take off, Sergeant Red instructs the other commanding officers to get head out, as well as the Sarge thinks to himself, "Let's see how these kids handle this next test." Fast forward about an hour. Kuro thinking to himself with eyes closed, that every time he saw images of Han Li coming to his rescue in his mind, Han Li would appear shortly after to get him out of a jam. His eyes opened and flowing with tears as usual, Kuro further thinks to himself that since he hasn't seen any of those images like he did before, Han Li is probably not coming to save him out of this. Now an hour back to the present. The choppers soar over the ocean with all the recruits wondering where they are being taken to. An alert goes off on everybody's watches stating they are above a deserted island and that is where they will have to land to begin their survival training. Sergeant Red informs the group that their food-filled bags should last them 2 days and all they have to do is survive. As the recruits chatter with anxiety wondering how they are going to last 2 days on this island, Dimitri, showing his leadership, tells the crew it will be no different than a camping trip. The instructor shouts his final statement. "We will return for you, in 1 week if you survive." Devastating. As the Sarge and his crew scour the surrounding to collect any of the classmen who ended up stranded off the water, he asks one of the instructors if there are any more of them in the water. He looks at his watch with GPS to confirm that every other student has made it on land. The instructor further states that even though they were all set to drop at different points, he noticed that 7 of the recruits have already come together to form a group. Sergeant Red tells the instructor that punk kids turn into punk adults and act no different. They will gang up and go after the smaller groups and the stragglers and steal their food and goods. And that's exactly what happened. Claiming their first victim, the group of 7 rob him of his rations as they open the bag and stare at the food as if it were gold. One of the 7 calls to their leader Carl, to show him what they got. Carl, sitting away from everyone else gawking at the food, stands up and yells out that they are all idiots. Carl states that he told them before the sun sets, "We need to load up as much as possible, and you guys are happy with this one little bag. This is our land now. Everyone's food on this island belongs to us, and we gotta go get it." The group roars as they feel now that they can take on the likes of Han Li, Del, and Dimitri. Carl hears a cry for help from his left side deep into the woods. They knew the assignment immediately and made their way towards the voice. Meanwhile, our main character who landed in the ocean but just out of the zone where he would have been disqualified, finally has made it to land after losing valuable time having to swim. Our main character determines that he needs to set up camp deeper into the woods. He thinks to himself that he definitely has the advantage over everyone else because he is used to having to wait long periods of time for his next meal as an orphan. He wisely deduces that they will panic and begin looting from each other. He wonders what Del and others who came from money will do under these circumstances. On the other side of the island, we find Del walking through the trees as he realizes that Dimitri is following him. Del asks, "What the hell do you want?" With a manic look on his face, Dimitri replies, "I've heard rumors about you, English prodigy, right? Let's rumble." Del, not showing too much concern on his face, turns his back to Dimitri and states that there is a better use of his time than to get into a fight right now. Dimitri, realizing how he came off, quickly yells back out to Del and clarifies it is not personal. "I just wanted to spar you in the spirit of competition." Del wonders if this guy Dimitri has a death wish or something. Dimitri continues to ramble on to the annoyance of Del and suggests they hang out with seemingly something up his sleeve. As the sun is beginning to set, Carl and his gang make their way through the forest to find that the cry for help came from none other than, you guessed it, Kuro. As the gang cackle at what they're seeing and making fun of Kuro, Carl grabs Kuro's supply and thanks him for all the food. Kuro screaming out, "At least help me get down, please." Carl replies that it is probably best he stays up there because if he was on the ground they would have molly-whopped him. He further states in a sarcastic tone, "Not to worry, you can survive a week without food. And when it rains, you'll have plenty to drink. Peace out." It's now the middle of the night as Kuro has been stuck crying in a tree for over 18 hours. He thinks back to Del telling him to stop annoying him with his crying. Other times with Carl and different classmates telling him to shut it up already with all that sobbing. Even his class leader Dimitri compared him to a baby. Enraged that everyone is so mean to him because of his crying all the time, he screams out into the forest at the top of his lungs for as long as he can. He's winded. And as he begins to phase in and out of consciousness, he looks at a bush that stands before him. He sees it again. The silhouette of our main character making a path towards him. Barely able to get his words out, he calls out to Han Li faintly. His last sight is Han Li coming closer to him as he passes out. The silhouette begins to disappear till there is nothing more. Just a few moments later, through the exact same bush appears none other than our main character, Han Li, realizing his friend is in a jam. Bright and early the next morning as our main character is sharpening some wood outside of his tent. Rushing out to get his head through the tent opening as he is unaware of where he is at for the moment, he sees his friend Han Li as he greets him. Oh, the relief Kuro feels. Our main character sets a tray of small food in front of Kuro and tells him to eat up. Han Li tells Kuro since he was not able to find his bag of food, that they can just share his. Kuro thinks to himself that there is no way he can take any food from Han Li considering there is only 2 days' worth of food for one person alone. The growl from his stomach is violent as he succumbs to his hunger and begins to eat. In his mind, though, Kuro is shaming himself for even being in this position. Han Li suggests once they're done eating, they should go look for more resources. Flying above the deserted island are little cameras with mini helicopter blades surveilling the region and providing the Sarge with intel on how things are playing out. Barging through the doors is Octo as he annoyingly points out to the Sarge again that there is no smoking on any ARC property. "What the hell do you want, Octo?" the Sarge asks. Octo replies asking if there is anything worth looking at with recruits in survival training. Sergeant Red points out to one of the kids from Norway and says this fool is taking it upon himself to build a raft and sail back to Ark. Meanwhile at the desert island, we find Han Li and Kuro in front of a body of water, as Han Li is tasting to see if it is drinkable. Our main character assures Kuro that the water is safe to drink, and they need to get some to go as well. The sun beating down on the two, our main character wisely tells Kuro that they should return to their campsite before they pass out from the heat. Han Li states to Kuro that they are going to have to find another source of food, yet he does not see anything growing from trees. Before he can get out the rest of his sentence, Kuro is emanating a reddish glow from around his body with bright eyes as well. Kuro snaps out of his trance and lunges to grab Han Li while screaming for him to stop. As our main character puts down his foot on a branch, swoosh! It was a booby trap set up by one of the other classmen. Han Li realizes that the fall wouldn't have been so bad, but the hole was deep enough to keep them trapped for the rest of the week and possibly die. Han Li inquires how Kuro knew that the booby trap was there. Kuro stutters as he is trying to explain, and Han Li blurts out and asks, was it like a premonition or something? Kuro is still struggling to explain the feeling he gets, but Han Li understands that Kuro is literally able to see what was going to happen prior to it taking place. Our main character is shocked as he thinks to himself that Kuro has the rare trait of short-term foresight. He further wonders if the stress of the environment allowed him to manifest his special ability, and if so, this could present the chance for Kuro to show everyone he would be a valuable asset to Arc. Meanwhile, Carl and his gang find Han Li and Kuro's campsite and search around to see no one is there. One of the gang members suggests they should destroy the campsite. Carl replies that they will have to come back at some point. We'll return when it's dark and rob them blind in the dark. Kuro, for the first time having moisture on his face that didn't come from him crying, is drenched in sweat as he mentions to Han Li how great it will be to lay in the shaded tent. As they arrive, our main character, with a look of concern, notices that the rock he set at the entrance of the tent has been moved. Not only that, he can see the trackings of multiple people on the ground as well. He quickly deduces that there is a group of classmen and that they are likely to return. Let's pack up and move somewhere else, Kuro, says Han Li while Kuro is devastated they have to continue walking in this heat. As the two make it to a clearing and realizing the sun is starting to set, our main character tells Kuro, we better get a move on before it's dark out. Kuro tells our main character that he is feeling something and his eyelids are getting heavy. Kuro comes to a halt as it appears he is in a trance. Then the same red glow around his body appears as he sees the silhouette of a panther stalking Han Li in the bushes before leaping to attack him. Kuro snaps out of his trance and lunges towards Han Li, and pushes Han Li, causing him to fall several feet back. And swoosh! A panther jumps out of the bushes and just missed his attempt to kill Han Li. Han Li freaked out. The panther sees his prey lying before him as our main character realizes he dropped his spear when he fell back. The panther makes its move and lunges forward with Han Li bracing for the mauling. From behind, our main character shoots a massive flaming beam that makes direct impact on the panther, causing him to run off and retreat from the pain. And would you know it? It's Han Li's friend and former Class D leader Jose to the rescue. With embers still emanating around him, Jose is glad to see that our main character and Kuro were alright. Han Li and Kuro notice that Jose's leg is bandaged up from a previous injury and ask what happened. Barely able to put weight on his leg, Jose mentions that there was a booby trap set on the other side of the island, and got him flush. Finally able to take a breather, Jose drops to his but rests as our main character tells Jose about the trap they ran into earlier as well. Putting two and two together, they deduce that both traps were probably set up by the same group. In a cocky manner, Jose, tooting his own horn, mentions that there is nothing anyone can take from him as he decided to consume everything he had once he was injured from the trap. Han Li is flabbergasted as he suspects that Jose was dropped as a baby. Meanwhile, several meters away on the island is the leader of the looters, Carl. Restless as he stares into the sky and flashing back to life right before Arc, which seems rather lush, his father makes him aware that he has psychic abilities and that it presents the amazing opportunity to enlist into Arc. Carl, taken back from the statement, reminds his father that he is a child star actor. Before Carl could get another word in, his father, with a manic look on his face, grabs him in place and tells him that all the money and notoriety that would come from becoming a psyker and saving the world would be 100 times more than you would get from acting. Win the war and come back as a god. On a different part of the island, with beads of sweat hitting the ground, we find Dimitri going all in with one-arm push-ups. Interrupted by the sound of Dell's Simon munching on a meal bar, Dell points out nonchalantly that their supplies are running low pretty quick. Dimitri scoffs at the statement as he states, I only care about training and becoming the strongest striker. Dell, seemingly annoyed, points out that the real training is in the psychic abilities, like who cares about the combat. Dimitri, seeing that he has gotten under Dell's skin, says to himself out loud that he wished Han Li was around considering he is the only real competition here. Manifesting his power in anger, Del shows his jealousy towards Han Li. Dimitri's plan on getting Del to fight him for real is starting to work. Back at the campsite, our main character, Kuro and Jose, sit around the fire and discuss their game plan for survival. Han Li suggests that he and Kuro will head out for resources and for Jose to hold down the fort considering his injured leg. It then hits Han Li that considering Jose has the psychic ability of ignition, that they will now be able to cook. So let's fish! As our main character and Kuro look into a body of water and the fish swimming around, Kuro wonders out loud, how exactly are we going to catch any fish? Instead of answering Kuro's question, Han Li takes this opportunity to thank Kuro for rescuing him the night before when he was fighting Carl. Han Li also apologizes for always fighting Kuro's battles as it was clear it was hindering his needed experience to grow. Our main character then tells Kuro that he is actually really powerful and gifted. With my fighting IQ and your psychic ability we can work together and get through this island training. From one friend to another. Touched by Han Li's statement, Kuro flashes back to his childhood as an orphan. Nameless in Japan, he was named Kuro because of his darker skin. Shouts of insults and shaming is all he ever knew. Now, present day, he won't fail his first and only friend as his display of power amazes our main character. Han Li instructs Kuro to look into the water and use his short-term foresight to know where the fish will be. As Kuro complies, he sees the silhouette of the fish appear and states he knows the future cadence of the fish. Han Li, taking into consideration that Kuro was also able to learn telekinesis only hours after arriving at Ark, instructs Kuro to now use the foresight and telekinesis together to levitate the fish out of the water. Kuro makes his move and success. A solid haul for their first hunt. As the two make their way back to the campsite, Han Li expresses how impressed he is with Kuro, and how it looks like food won't be an issue for the rest of their time there. As they both chat about how blown away Jose is going to be once he sees all the fish they caught, they feel an instant increase in temperature. Han Li figures it has to be Jose and tells Kuro to stay put as he rushes down to their site. Han Li, rushing in and drenched in sweat, looks in to see Jose beaten up and the site completely trashed. Meanwhile, back on the other side of the island, Dimitri tosses Del Simon a wooden sparring sword after riling him up a bit to get a fight going. Del wonders out loud, what kind of weirdo brings not one, but two weapons everywhere he goes? Dimitri replies that some of the best martial artists wield the dual sword combo, and considering I'm one of the best, it only makes sense. Del points out the only reason he is going to fight him is because he's heard that he is the Class B leader and is moving up to Class A. Del then states, let's see if you're worthy to join me in Class A. Dimitri would love nothing more. And just like that, they rush each other full speed. Del slams his foot into the ground right before getting too close and causes Dimitri to mistime his attack and Del to land a direct blow to the chest of Dimitri. Del realizes that the majority of the blow was blocked by Dimitri's arms as Dimitri tells Del that he is going to have to do better than that to walk away the winner. He then pushes Del back as he swings his weapon. Dimitri sees an opening and lunges forward quickly as he lets off a slew of strikes. As Del sees an oncoming heavy blow coming, he quickly evades to his right and uses his psychic gifts to leave a projection behind as a decoy. He gets behind Dimitri and swings his sword as Dimitri was barely able to dodge to attack. As Dimitri stumbles back, Del dashes forward for a stabbing attack. Dimitri quickly leans his body back and strikes the sword out of Del's grip as he pops back up to his feet. Seeing his opponent with no weapon, Dimitri goes in to finish this off with a powerful blow. Del's eyes quickly glow as he uses his telekinesis to launch his fallen wooden sword into the back of Dimitri's head and knocking him out. Del, looking down on Dimitri, gives him his praise for being a better weapons fighter than him, but the real weapon is our psychic power. Del then wonders if Han Li is already stronger than Dimitri. Back to the campsite, our main character is screaming for the injured Jose to wake up. Jose opens his eyes and tells Han Li in a joking manner, I'm right next to you, what are you yelling for? As they set up a fire, our main character asks Jose if he saw who did this to him. Jose, with one side of his face completely swollen, tells the two that it was Carl and his gang of looters. Jose then advises that they should leave because there is a high chance the gang will return. Pissed off, Hanli screams out hell no. He then states, they think they can beat up on a friend and rob us of our food? They got the wrong group. Jose is happy to know he's got a true friend in Ark. Hanli lays out the plan. We're moving to a new place to lay our heads, and when night falls, we attack. Hours later, after the sun has set, our main character and Kuro stand on high ground and look down over the campsite where Carl and his gang have returned and made it home. In front of the cave stands two of the looters on watch duty. Hanli looks over to Kuro and lets him know that he believes in him and to fire off when ready. As the looters are bragging about their conquests and their might, Kuro thinks to himself that he is side by side with the only person who has ever shown him support and called him friend. He manifests his telekinesis and levitates all the stones surrounding him. And in a flash, Kuro sends the stones straight towards the gang member, causing them to scream on impact. Carl and the rest of the gang show up from inside the cave to see what is going on. They all realize the direction in which the stones were thrown from and rush in that direction, moving side to side in hopes of being a harder target. Kuro, using his power of foresight, is able to see where the gang members will be and launches the stones with speed and accuracy. Making his move, our main character jumps from behind the bushes and begins to lay the smack down on his foes as he launches one of them to fall right in front of their leader Carl. Hanli approaches with spear in hands as the two size each other up. Carl, realizing that it's our main character Hanli, he deduces that there is no way Hanli was able to defeat every one of his gang members alone. Our main character telling Carl that he is indeed correct, he tells Kuro to come out from behind the bushes. Carl stares, absolutely fuming that crybaby Kuro is one of the two that defeated his 6 gang members. Our main character tells Carl that they are here to get revenge for what they did to Jose. We're going to punish you. Carl, reaching down for a weapon, tells Hanli to shut his mouth and bring it on. I'll show you who runs this island. Hanli states, let's do this. Lunging wildly and telegraphing his attack, Carl swings his weapon with Hanli able to dodge it and return a counter-strike right across Carl's face. Carl is shocked. He pops back up and goes in for another swing just to have Hanli duck easily under it and delivering a hard blow to his body. Carl is starting to realize that Hanli is not just some scrub. Hanli begins to mock Carl as he is barely able to stand and letting him know it's eye for an eye over here. Unable to hold in his anger, Carl screams out for Hanli to shut his mouth as he takes a desperation swing. Unfortunately for Carl, our main character parries the strike and follows up with a 3-piece combo that inevitably has Carl sliding across the ground. Face down in the ground and in disbelief as he thinks to himself, there is no way this orphan child is this strong. Hanli shames Carl for beating up on Jose considering he was already injured. Carl screams out for Hanli to not look down upon him. I am the one who looks down upon others. He tells Hanli about his life before Arkansas. How he was one of the most famous child actors in Germany. With his father becoming a powerful government official, their family status was at an all-time high. My father's thirst for power grew when he found out about my abilities, and our rise will not stop here with you beating me. After his statement, Carl launches dirt into the eyes of Hanli and follows up immediately with a punch, sending our main character into the dirt. As Kuro rushes over to help his friend as Carl is lifting Hanli off the ground, Carl looks over to Kuro and threatens him if he takes another step. Carl then throws a litany of gut punches on our main character as Kuro's temper is rising. With the tables turned and Carl looking down upon Hanli, Kuro witnesses Carl lifting his weapon as he tells our main character this is the first and last time you ever try something like this again. Shooting over is a stone that was blocked by Carl from Kuro as he tells Carl to back off of our main character. Carl approaches Kuro and in a bullying tone asks him if he is next in line for the beatdown. He grabs Kuro by the shirts and shames him for being a weakling and why Ark would even want him. Carl, not noticing that Hanli is standing right behind him, throws a haymaker and drops him hard into the ground with blood spewing out of his mouth. Our main character tells Carl how dare he call someone else useless. You need a gang to succeed, and the likes of Del, Dimitri, Jose, and Kuro are all way stronger than you are alone. The words are cutting Carl deep as Han Li continues to let him know that your path to the top is difficult for someone as weak as you. You're trash, bro, know that. As Han Li raises his spear to the defeated Carl, he stabs downward, and to Carl's surprise he stabs the ground next to his face and lets him know, your way of being the best won't work, try something different, and never attack any of my friends again. With what just happened, Carl closes his eyes and thinks to himself in relief, Dad, this was never my dream in the first place. Carl left Ark right after. The next morning, with Kuro and Han Li returning after their battle, life on the island for the next 3 days was considerably smoother. Finally, the final day has arrived, with the rescue choppers returning for the first years. The three look up in relief that this survival training is finally coming to an end. The rest of the first years rush over to our main character, Kuro and Jose, to thank them for all the fish they gave them to survive being on the island. Kuro asks Jose why he hides his ignition ability. Jose lets Kuro know that for him, his power is a nuisance. Jose then turns the attention to Han Li and states he was the mastermind behind everyone's survival here. Then everyone's watch beeps at the same time with a notification stating that they all have survived and passed their survival training. It's Sergeant Red's voice, and probably the only time the first years will be happy to hear it. Sergeant Red then instructs everyone to board the choppers in the order he states. As the choppers set out to head back to Ark, Sergeant Red speaks to the first years that were with him and lets them know that they were being watched the whole time they were on the island. The instructors all came to the agreement that the 4 of you have proven to be the best. The Sarge explains that this whole week was not only about surviving but to see what kind of soldiers they will be as protectors of our species. The Sarge states, Kuro, Del, Dimitri and Han Li have all been recommended to advance to second years. Finally back at Ark on a beautiful day, Jose walks up to Han Li's bunk and asks if he's up for a game of soccer. Han Li was bored reading anyways and takes him up on the offer. Today was a day off of training, which is a rarity, and only occurs when important Ark events are scheduled. The boys are lined up on their respective sides ready for action, Dimitri tells Del, and no powers. With Del understanding Dimitri is still upset from being knocked out during their weapons battle. As they begin to play, an important meeting is taking place, which is why they had a day off to begin with. The instructors in a conference room are there to discuss which of the first years are going to advance to second years. Ark's chief officer, Alexander Licor, at the head of the table, instructs for the meeting to begin. Ark's chief researcher, Dr. Sasha Grace, asks about the 4 first years that were recommended for advancement. Officer Licor points out that Del and Dimitri have proven themselves beyond a reasonable doubt, and are no-brainers. The other 2 is where the real conversation lies. First up, Han Li. He is one of the lowest-ranked first years in terms of his psychic ability. Officer Licor further states that our main character would still be in Class D if the Sergeant Red didn't offer him the challenge to fight him to move 2 classes up. Why should he advance? Asks Officer Licor. Han Li's favorite teacher, Instructor Chin, begins to state his case for Han Li to move up as he points out his battle with Sergeant Red and displayed great awareness and tenacity. He's got the right skill set to be a great soldier. Officer Licor looks to Sergeant Red to see if he agrees with Instructor Chin. The Sarge states that even though he is not ranked high in psychic potential, the telekinesis he developed since he has been training with Instructor Chin is really sophisticated, and he displayed it when we fought using the telekinesis to spin his spear faster. He was able to do that before he received any training. Meanwhile, on the soccer field, Han Li is bobbing and weaving and kicks the crap out of the soccer ball for a goal. Jose gives our main character praise for playing so well even though he never plays soccer. A real natural. On the other side of the field, Dimitri asks Del, aren't people from your country supposed to be good at soccer? Del taking offense to the statement, asking Dimitri what does he mean by the question. Dimitri replies, you just got schooled on the field and for a Brit, you suck at soccer, bro. Back in the conference room, Dr. Grace slams down a file containing Kuro's information. With his profile being projected for everyone to see, Dr. Grace suggests that Kuro is too much of a sweetheart to have the strong will to handle the growth serum he will be given if advanced to second year. The growth process will kill him. The Sarge defends Kuro and states that his growth of his psychic abilities in this short time is greater than any first-year arc has ever seen. He even has the ability of short-term foresight, which is a huge advantage. Officer Licor states it won't matter if he isn't strong enough mentally. The Sarge states, that is all the more reason for Han Li to move up as well. Han Li has been looking out for Kuro and giving him the confidence to grow as much as he has. Officer Licor is obviously annoyed by the fact that Han Li and Kuro are even being recommended for advancement, and wonders why Instructor Chen and Sergeant Red are pushing so hard for them. Back on the soccer field, our main character zips through dribbling the soccer ball with a perfectly timed pass to Jose through the defense. Jose, who has played soccer all his life, jukes his way through the opposition with the opposing goal nervously awaiting the shot attempt. Jose then sees the everyone in place the way he envisioned the plan, passes the ball to an open Han Li as he kicks the ball into the back corner of the net for a goal. Our main character and Jose embrace as their game plan went just as planned. Interrupting their celebration, Sergeant Red pulls up and tells everyone to pay attention. He makes them aware that the meeting has come to an end and that the decisions of the advancement to second years have been made. Dimitri, Del, Kuro, and Han Li. All four of you are moving up to second years. Han Li showing a bit of sadness on his face as Jose's name was not mentioned. Jose, with usual upbeat attitude, congratulates our main character and tells him to keep a seat warm for him as he will be moving up in no time. Till we see again, brother, says Han Li to Jose. The Sarge instructs everyone to head back to their bunks and for the four who are advancing to pack their stuff. Han Li walks up to the Sarge to thank him for everything he has done for him, from offering him the opportunity to battle for class leader to recommending him to advance to second year. The Sarge lets our main character know to hold his thanks as the second years go through a lot, and some don't make it. If you survive, we'll see each other again. Good luck, Han Li. Han Li salutes in respect as the Sarge walks away in hopes he sees Han Li again. As the sun is beginning to set, the four with their bags packed and waiting to head out, Dimitri is showing his excitement and can't wait to start his second-year training. Han Li points out that they are supposed to head out to the medical wing of ARC, and that statement has Kuro's anxiety raised all the way up in fear. In usual fashion, Han Li comforts Kuro and lets him know that he is not alone in this. Kuro expressed that he is nervous about the surgical procedure to accelerate their growth to their adult bodies. Dimitri yells back to Kuro, "That's the best part." Del asks why Dimitri is so excited. Dimitri replies that he cares only to become stronger, and this procedure will make it happen even quicker. The medical wing. Dr. Grace introduces herself and states that she will be working the four for the next 5 weeks. Han Li questioning the 5 weeks portion of her intro, Dr. Grace clarifies that the process of maturing their bodies will take the complete 5 weeks. The first 2 weeks they will be submerged in the cultivation pods where the growth will occur. And the coming weeks after will be used to rehab and train your newly formed bodies. They all show a look of concern at the thought of them having to spend days in a pod. Our main character breaks the tension and puts his hand out forward and tells the boys, 2 weeks fellas, and we'll meet back here. Dimitri and Kuro put their hands in with Del, embarrassed at how lame they look. Dr. Gray sees the leadership that Sergeant Red is always raving about, and she can't help but to smile. The process starts immediately as the cultivation serum is administered to the boys in their cultivation pods. They all initially feel like they can't breathe and don't feel well, as that is common being in a pod to start off with. Dr. Grace tells the boys that the sedative will kick in and they will be sleeping throughout the whole surgery. As a week has passed and the cultivation serum has made its way through all of their bodies, it is time for the procedures to begin. One of Dr. Grace's colleagues advises for her to take a break as she has been working non-stop. Dr. Grace takes her advice and leaves the operating room to find Sergeant Red sitting in the waiting room. Dr. Grace questions the Sarge's intentions, as he stated before he does not give a damn about these kids, and yet, he has been in the waiting room every day since they started their procedure. Sergeant Red jokingly states that he is there to make sure she does her job correctly. She brushes him off and states everything is going as planned and about to administer the second round of the serum. The second serum is made up from the dragon's psychic core known as the Dragon Heart. Sergeant Red knows that the Dragon Heart serum will allow for them to become more in tune with their psychic ability. He hopes this will further advance Han Li's psychic ability. Alert! Alert! Dr. Grace's watch goes off with an emergency alarm and causing her and Sergeant Red to run full speed back to the operating room. Han Li is beginning to wake up mid-procedure, which is brutal considering he will now feel the immense pain that comes with surgery. As Dr. Grace panics as she knows Han Li is in danger, she rushes to his pod to get him out of there and end his procedure. Before she can make the move, the Sarge grabs her arm as she looks at him in shock. He tells her that there is no turning back. Han Li must advance no matter what it takes. 1 week later. In Dr. Grace's office sits Han Li as Dr. Grace asks him how he has been feeling. Our main character, in his fully matured body, replies that he feels great, and it was all because of the doctor's work. Dr. Grace, showing concern, tells Han Li that he is the first psyker whose body rejected psychic abilities. She flashes back to a week prior as Han Li is in absolute agony. She yells to the Sarge if he continues the psychic cultivation portion of the procedure, he will die right there. The Sarge tells Dr. Grace to stop with the psychic cultivation and continue the rest of the operation. Han Li is strong enough to handle the pain, and we need him to move up. Flashing back to present day, Dr. Grace informs Han Li that his case will be treated differently since he has only upgraded his body and not his psychic ability. She asks our main character if he feels any discomfort physically or mentally. He jokingly states that he feels less stressed since now he can't be kicked out because of bad grades. Dr. Grace is thoroughly impressed and understands what the Sarge was talking about in terms of Han Li's vast willpower. She thinks to herself in confusion as psychic abilities are tied into one's willpower. So how is he so low graded with his psychic prowess? It has to do with his body rejecting his powers. Leaving the doctor's office, he is greeted by Dimitri in his fully developed form. Del looking over with a straight face, Han Li looks over and jokingly states that the 5 weeks came and went by so quick. Han Li is surprised at how much everyone has changed. But none more than Kuro. He is now tall and strong with his all-white dreadlocks but still has his kind eyes. Del showing his annoyance and how upbeat Han Li seems to be, he walks off while telling Han, just because you're now in the same class as me, does not mean you are the leader of anything. Dimitri jokes at Del's expense, referring to him as the old grumpy fart now that he has matured from the operation. On the other side of Arc is the second-year facilities. The structure is different as the second years are split into squads and there are 12 squads total. Kuro and our main character are assigned to Squad 7 as they each get their own room. As they enter the training room, Kuro and Han Li are greeted by the leader Kato Suki. Kato and one of the other squad members have bandages and scratches on their faces. Kato, the leader of Squad 7, informs Kuro and Han Li that battle simulations, firearm training and air combat are the 3 most important things to learn as a second year. Kato tests Han Li and Kuro and asks if they know why firearm training is important as a psyker. Han Li answers and says that he knows that modern weapons won't hurt dragons but can do damage to their minions. The low-level minions are identified as werewolves, ogres and grunts. The higher intellect minions known as Elu serve in roles of authority like sergeants and lieutenants for the dragons. The Elu are also able to use psychic ability. Han Li asks if firearms are useless against the Elus since they are able to use psychic ability. Kato replies that the Elu can indeed block the attacks from firearms, but the difference between the Elu and the dragons is that the Elu's psychic energy is limited. Meaning once they use all of their energy, they are useless. Kato states that even though firearms training is necessary, both air combat and battle simulations are gold. Amongst all the 12 squads for second years, there are battle competitions held in the man-made forest within Arc. The most popular is Capture the Flag, testing the trainees' thought process and combat skills. Though technically a game, the swords they used are not sharpened but still made of hardened steel, which makes the game dangerous. In terms of the air combat training, the trainees practice fighting mid-air using air bits with the goal of knocking the opposing squad out of the air. Similar to a hoverboard, the trainees use the air bits to fight mid-air with another teammate called a supporter who uses their psychic ability to move the air bits with their teammates on it. Kato looks over to Kuro and states this will be the first time that Squad 7 has a high-level psyker to levitate the air bits for our team. Good thing you're here, Kuro. Kuro not showing the excitement that Kato was looking for, Kato asks Kuro if he's got a problem being their next supporter. As Kuro begins to stutter and talk quietly, the giant Squad 7 member standing behind the leader demands Kuro to speak up when he is spoken to. You are the next supporter for this squad. Han Li, as usual, sticks up for Kuro and lets the rest of Squad 7 know that Kuro is amazing. He further states that Kuro does not respond well to being yelled at, and before Han Li can say anything more, the giant squad member shifts his attention from Kuro to Han Li and tells him to shut the hell up and stay in your place. The leader of Squad 7, Kato, tells his giant team member to relax as the two new guys are just day one guys here. Kato then tells Han that even though they are all second years, they have gained a considerable amount of experience, so it's best if you show some respect. Kato further states, the only reason why our main character was accepted into Squad 7 was because he wanted Kuro. The scouting report states that Kuro works best with you. Your low-rank psychic ability alone would have never got you into our squad, just know that. As all of the members of Squad 7 laugh at our main character, Han Li balls his fist up and swallows his pride. Han Li then states, you're right, Kato, I will do as I am told. He extends his hand out as a sign of respect and throws off Kato as they shake each other's hand. Almost speaking with their eyes, Kato looks at our main character and thinks, you cocky tool, you won't make it here for long. Han Li, also seemingly speaking with his eyes, thinks, I'm ready for whatever you got, so bring it. Later on that night, as our main character begins to shower up, he recaps his day of training. Showing real talent with his assault rifle and his maneuverability, Han Li excelled at weapons training and feels there is no way Kato can think so lowly of him with what he just displayed. He turns to look at Kato as he is screaming at Kuro, demanding he pull himself together and do the damn drill. Han Li can see the Squad 7 leader Kato visibly upset at what he is seeing from Kuro. As our main character flashes back to the present, he questions himself and asks if he is even worthy of being a second year. The next morning in the locker rooms, Han Li is told by Kato that he will be on the bench today for the battle simulations. Considering our squad has a lot of weapons and combat specialists like yourself, it's no real point to have you out there. Sorry, buddy. Han Li remembers the picture of the orphans being taken care of because of his commitment to Ark and reminds himself to not do anything to get him kicked out. In the training arena, the voice from the speakerphones announced today's battle simulation will be between Squads 3 and 9. Kato and his giant teammate chat about how Squad 3 has a new member, and watching this battle will show them some light into their game plan. Han Li overhears the two and knows the new member of Squad 3 is none other than Del Simon. On the screen where everyone in the training arena can see is Del, and the chatters about him are clear. His reputation as the last psychic prodigy from England precedes him. Some look in awe and some see a tool bag, but they all respect his power. On the battlefield in the forest, Squad 9 dressed as the blue team call out Squad 3 and accuse them of being scared and to bring on the battle. The leader of Squad 3, as cocky as he can be, gloats about the new addition to his team with the high-ranked psyker Del now on his team. Del flexes his psychic ability, as the blue team panics, and rushes towards him before he can attack. They take one step and realize that their weapons are no longer in their hands as Del displays his telekinesis and has their weapons floating above them. Before they can fully understand what happened, Del uses his power and sends their weapons from the sky, straight down upon the blue team, leaving them defenseless. The leader of Squad 3 commands for the rest of his team to attack the beaten-down opponent, as they all rush in with Del standing back and watching his team kick the crap out of their opponents and claim victory. Back at the training arena, Kato tells Kuro that he envisions the same strategy Squad 3 used with Del. You, Kuro, will be our high-level psyker, and we will win the exact same way. Kuro, not showing too much confidence, our main character stands to tell Kato that using the same strategy is not the best idea. Squad 3 with Del on it only relied on Del's power and had no real strategy. They did not take advantage of the landscape or have any real plans of attack outside of a plan A. Showing his frustration, the Squad 7 leader Kato questions Hanli and asks if he is trying to rule over him. Hanli gets it now. He knows that Kato does not like him because he has tested his leadership twice now. Kato also is aware that Hanli's scouting report has high grades on his leadership. Someone is jealous. The giant team member from Squad 7 signals for Hanli to follow him. Once alone, the giant second year tells Hanli that he really is talented. So talented that even Kato has noticed, and that is why you should no longer be in our squad. We have already spoken about it, and the other members of Squad 7 agree. I'm talented so I don't belong? I don't get it, says Hanli. The giant second year states that Hanli has not shown any fear in objecting bad game plans throughout his time here. There are times you make better game plans than our squad leader, but the truth of the matter is that there is only room for one leader. We cannot afford a divide within our squad. And considering that Kato is the leader, he will make sure you never get the chance to compete in any battle simulations. My advice to you, Hanli, ask to be moved to a different squad. As the giant second year walks away, Hanli takes a second to digest the information he was just given. He understands the politics involved and weighs his option to transfer. Later on that evening, Hanli heads into Instructor Chen's office and submits his request to transfer squads. Instructor Chen, taken back from the request, asks Hanli if this is something he really wants to go through with, and our main character confirms his decision. Showing some disappointment, Instructor Chen informs Hanli that a meeting will have to take place for this request to be discussed, so it might take a bit before any decision is made. Hanli, knowing that it will take a while before he gets an answer, he decides that he will take the time up until the transfer request is complete to focus on developing himself, as he won't have any opportunities with the squad to train with them. Hanli hears a couple knocks on the door as Kuro steps in. Happy to see each other, Kuro asks Hanli what exactly was he and Kato speaking about earlier. Hanli brushes off the question and asks Kuro if he feels ready for the air combat training tomorrow. Kuro informs Hanli that he is able to levitate and move 4 air bits at once with the squad members on them. Hanli, completely impressed that Kuro's psychic abilities continue to grow at a rapid pace, he states that Kuro might be the most powerful of all the second years. Our main character further states that he will be rooting for Kuro from the sideline as he knows Kuro will do great. Kuro is always grateful that he has our main character to always support him. The next day, another squad battle is set with the gossip of the new high-level psyker participating in his first battle. Kuro's reputation for his power level is getting around and the other squads want to see what he can do, including our main character. The stage is set with both teams on their respective platforms and Kato looking over at Kuro, letting him know Squad 7 is counting on him. Pressure's on Kuro. Everyone is staring at the giant screen as the air combat match between Squad 1 and Squad 7 is set to begin. As a quick presentation of the air bits are displayed on the screen for the new second years, it explains how the air bits are used as drones controlled by a supporter with great psychic ability. Typically there are 2 supporters who each control 2 air bits during the air combat battles. Hanli thinks to himself that Kuro should be great considering he is powerful enough to control 4 air bits at once, but there is a look of concern on Hanli's face as he looks on. Kato orders for the squad to get in their positions. He vows for his plan to be foolproof. Squad 1, donning the red uniforms, fly into attack. The giant Squad 7 member notices the opposing squad all moving forward together exactly like Kato predicted. Yet at the last second, Squad 1 splits up going in multiple directions. The giant second year manages to catch a red team member mid-air and knocks him out into elimination. Kato on the other side does the same, sending another red team member out of the match. The crowd is going crazy as there are murmurs of Squad 7 being surprisingly strong considering it did not look like they knew where Squad 1 was going once they split up. Flashing back to before the battle, Kato goes over the game plan with Squad 7. He mentions that Squad 1 does not have any strong supporters, which means the psychers on the airbits are using some of their own power to levitate the board and are not fighting at full strength because of it. Considering Kuro can control 4 airbits at once, all the psychers on the airbits will be able to fight at full strength and having the advantage. Not to mention that Kuro has the foresight ability and can move the squad members to the best spot to land attacks. The giant second year shows his support in the game plan as it seems to be perfect. Back to the present, Hanli looks on to the battle as he acknowledges that Kato's plan is working, at least for now. With the blue team confident in their strategy, Kuro is getting winded not only from the strain of levitating the boards while using his foresight to predict where his opponent's next move will be, but also from the anxiety of the responsibility to keep everyone safe and victorious. There is so much information that Kuro has to take in. As Kuro mismanages one of the boards and allows for the red team to land a blow, the 2 remaining members of the red team realize that Squad 7, the blue team, still has all their members. They switch to another plan they have up their sleeves. As the 2 red team members lunge forward in unison, the smaller of the 2 leaps above the blue team as the other red team member, who is massive in size, grabs a hold of Kato and another blue squad member. Locked in a tight grip and unable to move, they look back to see the other red team member display some stunning speed, getting past the last 2 blue team members as they see him rushing towards Kuro. The Squad 7 leader Kato yells for the other members to forget about the speedy red team guy and help him get out of this guy's grip. Hanli sees the fatal flaw in Kato's demand, as he should have Kuro better protected considering he is the one controlling all the air bits. Hanli remembers back to when Kato told Kuro to always have 2 of the Squad 7 members on his side, and now he is going against his own game plan. The speedy red team member knocks out the other 2 blue team members and raises his weapon to strike Kuro. As Kato misused his team's resources and having 3 blue teamers against 1 opponent, he turns back and realizes that Kuro was left alone. Kuro, out cold from the strike at the hands of the red team. The remaining red team member smirks as he has just claimed Squad 1 a victory. As the crowd is aware of the poor game plan Squad 7 employed, most recognize that Kuro is supremely gifted but was defeated at the hands of a poor strategy. Our main character, staring at his friend laid out, he predicted that this was going to be the outcome. He knew that Kato literally had one plan and no backup options. He didn't have the sense to think what would happen if Kuro is met face to face with a striker, as he is levitating 4 blue team members. He didn't think what would happen if Kuro is no longer able to hold everyone up because he is attacked. He even called on one of Kuro's blockers to help him, leaving Kuro completely alone. As the announcement of Squad 1 defeating Squad 7, Hanli angrily thinks to himself that he would have never made such lazy and stupid decisions if he was the leader of this squad. 3 weeks later, Instructor Chen calls Hanli back into his office in regard to the paperwork he submitted for a transfer. The instructor tells Hanli that it has been accepted. But in a twist, along with being transferred out of Squad 7, Hanli also put in a request for the ability to start a new squad, which was also approved. Shocked that his requests were passed through, Instructor Chen informs Hanli that because he has always graded the highest in terms of leadership ability, the board has decided to give him a shot with his own squad. They actually want to see what he's got to offer. Instructor Chen passes the conditions over to Hanli that must be met in order to form a new squad. First, there must be a minimum of 4 squad members, including yourself. Second, the new squad leader is able to recruit only 1 person from each squad, if the person they choose also agrees to join the squad. Han realizes that he will be seen as a foe from all the other leaders considering he is able to poach a member of their teams. Our main character relishes the opportunity to prove the board right for allowing him to start his own squad. As he steps out of Instructor Chen's office, Hanli takes a second to think of who he wants to recruit. The first 2 obviously are his best friends Kuro and Jose. He then thinks to himself, damn it! As he forgot Jose is not a second year yet. He decides he will reach out to Kuro. But then it hits him, he does have another great option to reach out to. We find our main character knocking on a door, and would you know it, the person who opens the door is former Class B leader and good friend, Dimitri.